Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Field Advisor. I'm Kelsey Litchfield. Today, we're joined by our soy envoys once again. Shelby Weckel, Eric Beckett, and Drew Beckman are here with me this morning. And guys, I just want to go around real quick. Let's hear some harvest reports from the field, any yields that you're hearing, bad or good, and any other field of observations you've been making within the past couple weeks. Shelby, would you like to start for us today?
Good morning. You generally don't hear about the bad yields until later, so we won't be able to talk too much about those, or at least on my end. But quick recap, I mean, for the last 2 weeks, it's been really dry. The soybeans really progressed quickly. There's going to be a whole lot of soybeans cut next week as it starts to dry out here, depending on what the rain does this weekend. We finally ended up with around an inch and a half, up to 3 inches in areas there earlier this week. And it was nice to see that. It was really dry. I was kind of worried that a lot of the later corn was really going to suffer just for almost the plant dying, whereas now we can kind of continue to progress naturally, mature on out, and hopefully kind of not as worried about stalk rots or anything like that quite as bad as what we've already seen. Yield wise, it's been really good. The corn that's come out mid upper 200s, 250 plus. I've heard some of the earlier, some areas that were struggling a little less than that, but I think territorial, that area caught a whole lot of rain, so probably just some suffering from a lot of moisture in that territory, and they were a lot of early planted right in that area, so the early planting we're seeing kind of suffered with populations. So whether with ear count or plant count, having some population issues, but very good reports on the corn side. And I think as we progress into the later planted, things could get better. We'll just kind of see how it pans out. And then soybeans, we've had lots of good reports, anything from 75 to 100 at this point. And really, guys are really excited really to see kind of what things happen. It's exciting to see that with where the markets are, so kind of makes some guys feel a little bit better about themselves. And even with the diseases and things we saw, still getting good reports. So I'm anxious to see. I mentioned in my crop reports we were seeing cercospora in soybeans. We've never kind of seen it this heavy in my time of kind of being around. I've never seen it be this bad, so I'm anxious to kind of see what that pans out to be, and if we can progress into that purple seed stain in the soybeans if it gets that bad. So I wrote my report on that, and there's a tie between cercospora and the purple seed stain, but yet there's not. So there was a lot of mixed information kind of as I read, so be anxious to see if something comes out of that and kind of how bad it gets. So.
And Shelby, you wrote in your blog this week about that topic. Will you just share for those? I want them to go read the full blog, but maybe just show or tell us the impact that disease might have on harvest.
So after doing a lot of research, that disease is brought on by early wet, early season conditions, as a lot of diseases are, and the reports that I've read, you could have an impact of up to 30% of yield decline if that disease goes unmanaged. And I mean, management is the usual: plant genetics that are resistant to it, or the seed that's free, as well as use fungicide. And there was a lot of fungicide that was sprayed, and we don't know if every field that's affected was sprayed. It'd be hard to find that out without contacting everybody, and it would take some time, but sounds like it could be pretty significant. I'm sure too it could not have any effect depending on where you're at, and different things like that, but there's a potential there, as well as it can lead to docking. If you do end up with purple seed stain, you can get dockage at the elevator. So lots of pieces that go with it, but go read the blog. I learned a lot as I was researching it. There was a lot of information on it for something that we don't see a whole lot.
Yep, if you go to fieldadvisor.org, it's right there on the homepage. Thanks, Shelby. Anything else you want to mention? Any other field observations or farmer questions you're getting?
I think just right now, it's guys are anxious to get in and see what's actually out there. The little, like I said, with the little reports we've gotten earlier, guys are quite pleased. So it'll be, we always feel like the later stuff is gonna be better. So this is early planted, early season varieties that have been combined. So I mean, it's. I'm hoping it can only get better from here with this rain we had earlier this week. That's gonna save this next go around of plant or combining, just because you can help keep the seed size and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll continue to keep yields up, I think.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Shelby. Drew, let's head up north real quick, and then Eric will come back down to you. Drew, what are you seeing out in the fields? Any harvest reports?
We're seeing quite a few different things out in the field here so far this fall. So starting to take out a few of our variety plots, getting a lot of yield reports in. Kind of like Shelby said, a lot of the bad fields haven't come out yet. A lot of the ones that we're seeing are the ones that were planted early in fairly good conditions for the most part, and we're seeing exceptional yields on both corn and soybeans. I actually had a call the other day that field agronomists normally don't get, where I had a dealer call me just to tell me how good a hybrid was doing, and that just never really seems to happen. So very, very happy here on the front side and getting a little bit of renewed optimism with a couple days of up markets. It seems, I haven't looked at what it's doing yet this morning, but I know the last few days has been fairly positive overall. But yeah, everything in that, like probably 75 to even some reports up into that 105 range overall. We're on soybeans where we were hit really, really nicely with some weather events. As far as observations agronomically, we are starting to see a couple different things show up. So I have been to several fields with diplodia ear rot starting into them. So that is something that we have had the conducive environment of, and I've been in fields of that everywhere from Fisher all the way over to the Iowa border. So it's a pretty wide area that we're starting to see some of that. Not huge amounts, maybe 20% of the ear is infected, something like that. But it is something that we want to monitor, and we may want to take some of those fields out first if you do see that. Diplodia, if you're wondering what that looks like, it's almost like a white fuzz. It normally starts at the bottom of the ear, but this year I'm seeing it mostly start at the tip and kind of work its way down. But it will continue to spread in the field as it sits out there longer. So that is something that we would advise maybe getting out sooner rather than later. You don't have to rush to it. And then the other thing would be is if you are somebody who bins the grain on your own farm, just kind of be mindful of that, or maybe, take that field to a commercial setup or something like that. On the soybean side, we are starting to go down the path of our, so we do or have started doing a cyst count, where we go into a lot of fields we've had problems in, and we pull cyst samples and we send those in. And I got some reports back just on Friday of a field that had very heavy SDS pressure, that the cyst levels range from 6 to 12,000 eggs per 100 cc of soil. And to kind of reference that, anything over 2,000 eggs per cc or per 100 cc's is considered high. So we're seeing very, very, very high levels of cysts out there. And I would argue that kind of knowing what's going on there is probably just as important as any other soil test you're going to do in soybeans right now. That's kind of what I got.
Thanks, Drew. And I'll also put in a plug. Drew's talking about soybean cyst nematode and some of the sampling they've gotten back and the high levels they are seeing. And you saw a correlation with the SDS pressure, is that correct?
So I'm seeing, yes, with SDS and also even a few other soil-borne pathogens like Phytophthora, charcoal, a lot of different soil-borne pathogens we're seeing a correlation with high cyst pressure.
So if I'll put in a plug real quick, Illinois Soybean Association has started to sponsor. They started this last year and they're continuing it this year, free SEN sampling. So it's just as quick as filling out a form, and the University of Illinois Plant Clinic will send you all the things you need, or they'll send you the label, the prepaid label, so you can ship those samples in and then they can test them. So if you go to fieldadvisor.org, under the participate tab, you'll see SEN testing. You can learn more about that. We'll be doing some promotions this fall as the combines go through, and letting farmers know how to submit those samples so they can get them in. All right. Drew, anything else?
Nope, that's pretty well all that we're seeing, and echo a lot of things that Shelby has said too.
All right. Eric, let's head back down to you. What are things you're seeing out in the field? Any harvest yield reports that you are getting across?
Yeah, it seems like most of the guys I've been working with lately have still been, they're harvesting crops that were maybe planted sometime in April. And there's definitely a lot of variability in the yields that, from what I've been hearing, is that it's in response to how well the stresses were managed. In the latter part of April, we went through some pretty cold, wet conditions. We've talked a lot about that throughout the summer and everything, but it's definitely showing up now with harvest. I mean, I've been seeing some corn that's probably been off by about 30, as much as 30 bushels, just because of some of the stressors that it's went through. There's been a lot of beans are starting to come out, just like Shelby said. I think, especially with the rain we've had and the dry weather, we'll start to see a lot. Probably be gangbusters, if you want to say it, on bean harvest next week. There'll probably be a big emphasis on that. And I have been hearing some fantastic yields. Been hearing some 280 whole field averages. So, there's some 300 bushel plus corn in there to make that average. And then likewise on the soybean side, been hearing some big yields. I was working with one grower. He has now broke his all-time record twice this year in soybeans. Prior to this year, his all-time record for a field average was 99 bushels. And then he went 101 and then 104 on a whole field average. So some pretty impressive bean yield so far this year. So I'm very optimistic to hear what other type of bean yields we may be hearing out this year.
Eric, real quick, if I may, what could you give us a glimpse into what that grower is doing to see? You don't have to get into specifics, but maybe just a summary of what he or she's doing.
Yeah, so a lot of things that we talk about as far as he plants early. He's planting on a narrow row, so he's actually planting not on 15s but 20s, so narrower 30s. Using premium seed treatments with SDS protection, and then using sulfur. Using a lot of micros, including sulfur, multiple times throughout the growing season, including foliar applications in the post, and obviously then finishing things up with a good fungicide application. And so, and it isn't just one variety or one brand of beans. I mean, he plants several different varieties from different genetic pools and seems to be cranking out the yield. So, I mean, he pays a lot of attention and is a larger farmer too. So, I mean, he does find time to manage it well. So it's impressive.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And then too, I had a recent article come out this week as well too, talking about fertilizer and everything. And I hit about on this the last time we met and everything. Starting to, with growers starting to work through fertility plans and everything for next year. One question that I have been getting a lot lately, and it's kind of surprising given the markets and everything, is talking about sulfur and growers wanting to include some extra things in their fertility plan, which is kind of refreshing that, growers are still wanting to invest into next year's crop and they're really seeing the benefits. So if you are somebody that hasn't taken a look at stay beyond your standard P and K, especially for soybeans, would encourage you to look at sulfur and a few other key micros as well too for your fertility plans for next year. Beyond that, I mean, it's been kind of here lately. It's been kind of the same theme as we went through the latter part of the summer. It's kind of wait and see. Harvest really hasn't got cranked up too heavy yet, just because of the rain, and then still trying to pick and choose fields that are ready for harvest.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of cornfields that were maybe opened up, but then haven't been touched in the last week and a half or so. Granted, my area, we've gotten up here in Knox County, we've gotten quite a bit of rain, although my rain gauge, I think, is broken because it keeps I don't know for what reason it has more rain in it than everyone else, and I haven't figured that one out. Whether it's just I have a cloud over my house that rained more or not, but we
You're
have
being
gotten some
sabotaged.
rain, I guess. And then I highly doubt we'll get any rain from that hurricane, but maybe Southern Illinois, I know they could use some rain down there. Maybe they'll get some remnants of that hurricane that's now trying to make its way through Florida. So. Thanks, Eric. Anything else you want to mention?
I don't have anything else.
Other than a plug, go read Eric's blogs like he talked about. That's also on fieldadvisor.org. I'll be also posting your weed control blog today as well. Anything you want to mention about the weed management side as people are looking at 2025?
Yeah, so that's been kind of another thing is that growers have also been having to make some late season gramoxone type applications in some cases just to get through soybean fields because the water hemp is so bad. So, kind of my number one message that I'm kind of looking at for next year is, really look at a good residual program. I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't know how many more times we can say it. But growers have got to be including 3 to 4 effective sites of action. And metribuzin is going to be your friend in soybeans. And then also for next year, beyond choosing a good fertility or good weed control program, I'd also encourage growers to look at your soybean ratings, your soybeans that you're picking out. Most times it's going to take some deeper insights into just the regular information you might get from your seed provider. But every seed provider should have information on, say, field tolerances of PPOs. Usually it's sulfentrazone specifically, and then also metribuzin. And so what I mean by that is looking at those field tolerances, and some varieties obviously have higher field tolerances to those herbicides. And so in those cases, I think that could maybe be a way to leverage better weed control is leveraging higher rates for maybe some more of those troublesome fields and maybe not get any crop, maybe lessen our chances for crop response from use of those herbicides, especially during cool and cold conditions.
You have a lot to be thinking about as farmers are going through their combine or in the truck this fall. Some things to be thinking about. I also will do another plug for the Illinois Soybean Association's on-farm trial network. I know they are looking for farmer cooperators to do sulfur trials next year. So if you guys know any farmers that are looking to do a sulfur trial, they're also looking at insecticide trials too with Dr. Nick Sider. You can go to fieldadvisor.org and under the participate tab, go to on-farm trialing, because that is a pretty big question that we're getting as well as more farmers are wanting to trial some sulfur applications next year. All right. Anything else that you guys forgot that you want to mention? I know it's kind of a wait and see. Probably in the 2 weeks we'll have more yield reports as we get more into October. So we'll talk about those then. Anything else?
Be safe out there.
Yes. We're just coming off National Farm Safety Week. So I don't think it's always a good reminder to keep reminding to be safe, take your time. I've already seen in my area, we had one accident with a semi earlier this week. Both drivers were okay. Corn spilled out all over the highway. Some things I know are just out of your control, but be safe as possible this harvest. All right. Well, thanks all. Appreciate it. Oh, Drew, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, sorry. One last mention was as we got some moisture now, and I know there were some guys that stopped running on beans because they got so dry. Just something to remember is it's a lot better to take them out at 14% than it is take them out at 9%. You're giving up 5% of yield when you let those beans get down that dry. So just a little plug that now that we've got some moisture back in them, let's maybe take advantage of that. I know it's not fun to take them out when they're super wet, but it's even worse when we take them out, really dry. So that was the last thing I was going to mention.
Yep. Thanks, Drew. Good. All right. Well, we'll let you all go. Thanks for joining us today. And Soy Envoys, we'll see you again 2 weeks for more harvest reports. Thank you.